brother duo, and we are talking to them today about their business in freeze drying. What we're going to talk about today is one, we're just going to get to know them and their story. I already profiled them using a number of different videos when I went out to their location out in Larchwood, Iowa back in August. But now it's been about 6 all the videos, and now the two brothers who you see a lot of on the videos are now here live for you to ask questions and also get to know their business business story a little bit more. So Justin and Jason, thank you for being on this, and welcome to our first Q&A live with the Freeze Dry Business audience.
Thanks for having us, David.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. And just to make sure, are we seeing this on the live through the link? Does anybody making sure we're all seeing this? If you are, if you guys could chat in the put in the chat, that'd be great. That way we just know if people are seeing this. Yep, looks all good. Sweet. Okay, awesome. We're good to go. So Justin and Jason, whoever wants to go first. So you've got a family farm. Kind of a multi-generational family business. You basically have ice cream shops around your area, South Dakota, Iowa, things like that. And then you now have a freeze-dried ice cream product. So what is that like? How'd you even jump into that? Can you talk us through? Give us like a quick elevator story of like how you came about getting into freeze drying. Even though we can all look at your video later, but tell us a little bit about your story here.
Yeah, so we didn't even know anything about freeze dried for, and I didn't even know it even
just existed. A few years ago we found out.
So we had some local people that kept asking us about if we could take what we currently are doing and kind of do something different with it and kind of see if we can try to freeze dry the ice cream. So when they brought that up to us, we were like, well, we can try it. We can do anything we need to do in that plant because we do process our base mix, and then it's a lot easier for us to do it when we're literally making our own mix concept. So what we decided to do is buy a harvest right and kind of start playing around with that the base mix and the certain simple flavors. And over I would say about 6 months, it probably took us to do a lot of R&D. We kind of started playing around with the current like flavors, and all of a sudden some of them worked, and we just kind of started tweaking as we went. And then the next thing was like, well, how are we going to sell it? So then we decided to kind of just really focus on our packaging, and then we started doing some online stuff, and that's kind of how we got into the freeze dried. While it's been a kind of a side gig the whole time, so to tell you the truth, it's kind of now becoming more of a staple of the product catalog. So it's been kind of fun to just see it grow, and that's kind of how we got into it. Yeah. So
anything else to add there?
Not really. No, not really.
No, yeah. And if you guys could speak up a little bit more, just so we can all hear you. I know it's coming through the computer there with you guys, but you'll probably have to over exaggerate your voice there. But okay. All good. But yeah, that's really exciting. So one of the things that I experienced when I came out to you guys is, you know, you basically have a very specific process because you're dealing with like a cold product. And I know that I like freeze drying ice cream myself, but if someone was going to look into like cold based types of foods, you know, what types of things do they have to keep, you know, obviously they have a freezer, but like, are there certain types of processes that you had to kind of learn, like, to make sure that, you know, basically as soon as you put it in, all your prepping and everything that you do prior to putting it in the freeze dryer, are there certain things that people need to do some type of cold based type of, you would maybe give some advice about?
That's a good question. Well, on the ice cream side, yes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things with the ice cream, like you said, is a freezer. But what people don't realize is with ice cream, on the way we do it, you got to have a blast freezer. So it takes it to a whole different temp, 25 to 30 below. And that is the trick to how we do it.
We're set up to manufacture ice cream.
Yeah.
So then we have a huge blast freezer at -30, -25. And then that goes, because ice cream is made, it's like soft serve. So you put it in a blast freezer, then you would leave it for at least 12 to 24 hours in the blast freezer.
Yeah.
And that's why like the trays for our freeze drying, we smooth them all out. We can put it in a blast freezer and we can do high volume that way. Because when we first started, we were scooping them and that just wears out your wrist. And I know David.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, I do that.
So we just figured out how to manufacture on a bigger level. So
Make it scalable.
yep,
So,
and then we put in the blast freezer, and then we bring them out, we score them a little bit, like score them, like we just cut them a certain way. That helps the freeze dryers. It feels like it. I think the trays breathe better. It's
Yeah.
kind of what we figured out, and we have a few ice creams that work really well in freeze dryers. So,
but other than that, no.
No.
I mean, also we have ice cream machines. So what I mean by that is we put the base mix in our machines to make the ice cream. So I guess that's one thing that I don't think most people have are
No.
the machines that make the ice cream. But other than that, no, unless I'm missing something, David. Oh, we lost him.
Have like stand-up freezers, or they have like walk like that. And I've heard of these blast freezers as well. Like I know you're making the ice cream frozen too as a regular product. So like, does a blast freezer make it? Does it freeze faster with a blast freezer versus other ones, or like is it just purely the temperature that a blast freezer does that?
It's the temp, but it's also the wind chill.
Wind chill. Yeah.
So the key is air movement.
Yeah.
So the faster that you get that air to move in a cold temp environment, that just helps bring that ice cream down. And the faster you freeze it, the less water, the less ice, the less everything you have in the ice cream.
Yep. I lost him again.
David, I can't hear you. Can you hear us? We lost.
Can you hear me now?
There
Gotcha. I can't see you. There we go. We got you back. What was that question? Sorry. Or what were you talking about?
Are you good? You know what I'm gonna do?
There we go.
I'm gonna make sure I have everything in here right.
It looks good.
Sounds and looks good.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody can hear?
Yeah,
It sounds and looks good.
They said it looks really good. It's just you've been cutting out, so we're like,
Oh.
now we got you back.
I might just take out these air.
Oh,
There.
Okay.
did you say something?
Oh, now we lost him.
Shit, is this us?
No, that's not.
I better be careful. I didn't mean to swear.
Just still probably live.
Okay. All good?
We got
Do
you
you-
now.
Okay, you guys can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. No.
No, that's good.
All right, you guys can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
Okay.
we got you, bud.
Okay, but the sound is better.
Yeah.
I took out
Way
the
better.
AirPod just so you guys it would sound better. Okay, so now that you can hear me, so one of the things that I think a lot of people, you said you have harvest right freeze dryers, and so a lot of people think like, okay, I've got this recipe creation. Let's say it's freeze dried ice cream. I'm making it. I'm researching it. What's like one thing that I think if you were talking to an audience of people wanting to get into freeze drying, what are things that people might not know about running a freeze drying business when it comes to like actually running it, the operations? And it can be anything from I didn't realize like how much we'd be cleaning different types of freeze dryer trays. Maybe it's just the amount of different steps in the process. But what are things that people who haven't yet ventured into this may not realize is involved with running and operating a freeze drying business? If you could pinpoint a couple things.
I would
I'd
say
say
the
you go.
biggest thing with me would be, of course, cleaning. There's a lot of cleaning, but it's the R&D on the different food products that you put in it. It's like everything is so much. It's like so precise, and you do have to. You can't. You gotta have the same weight going in. You can't have different trays weighed differently. It completely messes the machines up. So I would just say the preciseness of the weights and then what you put in the machine, because every food is different.
And
Yeah.
if you guys tried different things, we have someone in the live chat here who has said like, can you freeze dry celery and greens, obviously like vegetables and things, but outside of the candy and the ice cream, have you has that been proven a fact with things that you guys have tried?
Well, we haven't really tried much other than that because we've been so busy just doing that, and it goes back to the cleaning.
Yeah.
Ice cream's a lot of work to get
Well,
in a machine.
we just do what we know we're good at, and it's
Yeah.
like we just keep them busy as is, so we don't even have downtime for anything else, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would say I would agree that there's a lot of cleaning that goes involved, especially if you have a lot of these home freeze dryers. Because I've been visiting like Parker Freeze Dry, which is close to you. I've been visiting Tech Source Systems, which is in Salt Lake, and the Cut-In Systems. These are all large commercial freeze dryers, and so it's like when I see myself cleaning a lot, I'm like, man, if people get into like a dozen or so freeze dryer systems, especially the home side, it's like they're all starting and ending at different times.
Yep.
They're all defrosting, at different times too. You got to change the oil, all these different things. So I can imagine that. So yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of people who get into it, they don't really realize kind of like the whole operations of it and the steps. Um,
That can
but
get to be a lot.
yeah, let's jump into some of the questions. So I had people submit who wanted to get access to ask you guys some questions. A couple of them have asked them through a survey that we got ahead of time. So I'm going to prioritize those, and then we'll open it up to anybody in the chat who wants to ask. And if you're just joining this live stream, we're talking with Justin and Jason Stensland. They're part of this Stensland freeze dried ice cream company. Stensland Family Farms is their company, but Stensland, they make freeze dried ice cream, and they make a couple different flavors. You can check out the full playlist of my channel profiling them on the Freeze Dried Business YouTube channel. But we'll get to the questions here. So we've got a question from James. He said, it looks like Skittles has come out with their own freeze dried Skittles, and so he says, I think there's still room there for the little guys. Given that you guys have a unique product though, but you're still in the freeze drying space, how do you plan for situations where large companies might move into your particular product, or things like that, or similar products?
Good question. Yep. I would say it depends on what your target market is. What I mean by that is, are you going to stick in your local area and try to build relationships up through that? Or are you going to try to find a distributor? Or are you going to try to go through retail? Why I say all that is because one advantage you have is if you're local, build the relationships. The big guy can't do that. So I highly suggest that would be one way to get into that market. And the big guy, yeah, they're going to beat you on price, but it comes down to service, and it comes down to offering, I mean, yourself to like, hey, this is me, this is what we're doing, and just explain that. And we get discouraged on some of the big guys on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Jolly Puffs are next; they're already out of the market.
They are. But what we like about our ice cream is we control it. It's our recipes. It's ours. So yes, there's people that are going to do freeze dried ice cream, but I feel like not what we have, because we have the strawberry, the carnival, but it's our ice cream. So that's how I figure is there's always going to be people freeze drying ice cream, but there's plenty of room for everybody.
Yeah. Do you feel like like when the news came out about like Mars Wrigley coming out with their Skittles and um, the other company coming out with the Jolly Ranchers, did did you go into it even with freeze drying ice cream? Did you go into it being like they're bound to have this eventually, or did it kind of put you on surprise and you guys had to kind of have a a company meeting to say, okay, like this kind of wakes us up a little bit more to like how do we differentiate ourselves with our own product and keep ours together in case there is competition.
It, I wouldn't expect anything less from those big companies. They'd be dumb not to do it. So then,
We were planning on it right away.
yeah.
A couple
it's
years
like
ago, we knew they were going to have
anytime
this.
something blows up, anytime it's easy, anytime there's money to be made, everybody flocks to that. So then what you got to do is just figure out, like what we did is, right, all right, people recognize Skittles, people recognize Jolly Puffs, and any other candy. That got us into the market. That got us a couple shelves. It gave us some cash flow. And then in the backside, we're just focusing on what is going to set us apart other than our service and whatever else we're trying to do. Because anybody can throw a Skittle in a machine. Anybody could throw some of that other stuff in it. If you can beat them on price, great. But
You never will, though.
I don't know if you will, if it's even worth it. Again, figure out your niche, I guess, and focus on that. And if you want to take a Skittle and add something to it, maybe that's as simple as
Flavor or
that.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm glad at the very beginning you said, think about like your local connections because
Yeah.
I did a video, actually did a live stream when this all came announced, and one of the things that I said is there's a lot of unknowns with how a publicly traded company like Mars Wrigley, what are they going to cannibalize or kind of like handicap their staple legacy product like the Skittle that's chewy, because all of the freeze-dried candy makers from the past like 3 or 4 years, they were buying a lot of that product. Sales started going up. Well, if you start kind of chopping off one head to go focus on something else that you're growing, it's a publicly traded company. So I can imagine that shareholders are going to want to see, like, has there been a drop in the legacy product, and has it been overcome by the new product? And if that doesn't become the case, then I think Mars and the Jolly Rancher company and things like that, I think they'll adjust in their market strategy. I think they'll still produce it, but they might be a little bit different. It might look a little bit different in terms of how they're going to offer it available.
Makes sense.
It'll be interesting what they do, honestly. Just kind of watch them. That's what we do, is just kind of watch them.
We're so focused on our own product with the
And focus on yours, yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Well, you can't worry about that because in any industry, there's always the big guys, and there's always, any industry. And if that bothers you, then it's like,
You're in the
wow,
wrong industry. Yeah.
you're not gonna ever get anywhere. It's just
Yeah.
like beer or anything else. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you're going to get into the candy side, just you got to know that the branded candies, a lot of people are doing them, and so you got to experiment and create your own product. And ice cream's one of those unique products that you've figured out. It's a natural fit because you're already creating the ice cream in the product, but you still have to get out there and other people sell freeze-dried ice cream, but you have to get a certain market and things like that. So we've got another question from Drifter, and he says, how do you figure out the right settings for freeze-drying ice cream?
Great question. That took us a long time. I will say with the harvest rights, they have it very simple. We've had other machines that we were playing with, and they get very finicky. But a lot of trial and error. The R&D, just keep trying, and we've blown up tons of ice cream in the machines. We had messes everywhere. So
the trick to it is cold.
have it really, really frozen going in. Yeah, that's huge. That took us a while to. It's got to be cold.
Well, then we'll get our machines to start, and then we'll get those machines that come down on temp before we even put anything in.
-20 is we max the machines out, the harvest rates.
And then what we'll do is we'll introduce the ice cream in it while the pan is really, really cold. We'll put the ice cream in it right when the machine's cold.
Yep.
That way it doesn't ruin the integrity of the product. And that we feel like that works the best. Otherwise, it becomes a sponge.
So our trays that we put in the machine is probably negative 25 at least, maybe even negative 30. When we put them in the machine, because the machine's at negative 20. So by the time because once it gets to negative 20, we'll put the trays in, and then that machine will start vacuum sealing or vacuuming pretty quick. That's the key. Otherwise, if it's too soft, that ice cream will just blow up. So
Yeah.
that's what we figured out.
Yeah, well, a lot of people that try freeze drying ice cream, how do you try to? A lot of people ask, how do you avoid getting that bubble, that bubbling and things? And I've always told them that usually it's a factor of your ice cream is not hard enough, like it got soft and it could happen at 0 degrees even. So like your ice cream got softer, or even also the ingredients have a lot to do with that too.
Ingredients is huge. We know it's like even our vanilla, we cannot get that to work because that alcohol in the vanilla.
For our vanilla.
For our vanilla, yes, because we have real vanilla we use, and there's an alcohol in it, and we can't get that to work. It does not freeze dry. It takes hours, like 50 hours, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Now talk about you guys are using Harvest Right freeze dryers. How has ice cream performed in those type of freeze dryers?
Good
and bad.
Yeah, we have 3 kinds that we're doing. Of course, we want more. We're doing, we're trying like a root beer, we're trying cheesecake and all that, but we're having troubles with trying to get it to work because it does blow up. So we have those issues all the time. So we have like 70 flavors of ice cream. So we just keep going down the list and trying to find which ones will work. So that's what we've been more focused on. We want up to 6 to 8 flavors is what we want.
Freeze dried.
A freeze dried ice cream, yes.
Yeah. So with these home freeze dryers, it's really easy to kind of get a good entry point because they're inexpensive. But have there been any challenges that you've found with having home freeze dryers to make your product consistently? And like, because people who are watching this have the same types of freeze dryers, we all kind of start the same way. But since you're running these larger businesses and you're producing a lot more and you need consistency, like what's been your kind of evolution of your thought process of like using these home freeze dryers, but now you're like kind of at a different level. So do you still see the home freeze dryer, whether it's Harvest Dryer or anything, being the freeze dryer you're going to be using, and like that's what it's good for? Or have you started exploring commercial freeze dryers where yes, it's more expensive, but you've definitely gone you've gone down that path? Because people want to know that if they're kind of exploring how to scale their business.
For ice cream wise, the Harvest Right will not be the option that we're going to move forward with.
Yeah.
But
We can't scale very much.
well,
We're getting by with now,
it's the
but consistency. Yeah.
You just can't
In
get
volume,
it.
you can't get it.
You can't get it. No matter, you'll slave yourself over those machines. You just can't quite get the volume.
Yep. So we're in the process in the middle, just looking at options and which way do we go? Do we sub it out? Do we have someone help us with it that has big freeze dryers? We visited some other plants that have nice big freeze dryers. Do we invest in our own? There's so many options. We're still in the middle of that, so we don't really have an answer yet because that's the level we're at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another reason why you should attend the Freeze Dried Summit, because I'm gonna have almost every single freeze dryer OEM, both home freeze dryer and commercial freeze drying, all in one place. They're all going to be talking in breakout sessions, and so yeah, during the live stream here, if you haven't heard, the Freeze Dried Summit is a freeze drying conference for the business side of things, just like you guys. So I'm trying to bring everybody together, not just machines. I'm trying to think of people in the marketing side. How do you get better and efficient at your marketing, social media? How do you build a better recipe? How do you automate packaging and putting things in so you don't have to do all the labor? All of those things are going to be invaluable. So yeah, anybody who's watching, check it out, freezedriedsummit.com, and you guys should come too. I hope you do.
Well, thanks for the invite, because I might have to.
Yeah. So we got a chat in here. Says, glad to see you, brothers. I don't know if you guys can see that in your studio here, but we've also got a chat in here. Going back to the cleaning mentioned earlier, JC2010 says, I understand cleaning the trays, but how do you clean and sanitize the machines? Do you yank out everything every cycle? Any tips for speeding up the cleaning of your machine?
So for ice cream, what I figured out is I can run 2 batches. We got our ice cream to about 22 hours. So we can do a batch every 22 hours. So we run 2 batches back to back, 2 runs. And then what we do is we pull everything out, all the guts and everything, let them defrost because they do get quite a bit of ice. And then we scrub them all by hand. We scrub everything. We use a lot of brushes. We get in there with those little cracks. That's why we were talking earlier is like cleaning is just ridiculous. But we do it. And then we have, we'll clean all our trays and everything after each run. We have like 250 trays right now, those extra large trays in the Harvest Rights. So we fill them all up. We can fill all them up in about a couple hours, and then we freeze them all. And once we get them through the machines, we have a nice little place. We scrub them all and we put them on a rack so they can dry because we need them dry, and we just fill them up again. So that's our rhythm and our routine. So we scrub everything by hand.
Everything by hand, even at where we're at. Yep.
A lot of people ask too about, speaking of cleaning, they ask about like, does the FDA like these home freeze dryers? Have you, I mean, you run a dairy, you're creating ice cream. So you probably have a lot of regulations that you go through anyway, not just with the freeze dried side, but when those types of regulators have come in to take a look at your food safety and those types of things, like what do they think of freeze dryers right now?
I don't think they really understand it personally. But we're so used, like you said, we're in the dairy industry, so we have SOPs, we have we have everything. So we spend all the time and money, and we got all the nutrition, we got labeling, we do everything in house. So we're used to it. We have inspectors all the time.
But you take somebody that's not used to it.
Exactly, and it's overwhelming, I would say.
They do a kitchen permit or what have you. It can get to be a lot. But you follow the rules. You go through it.
Go through it. It's a lot, but you just
there's gray areas and how the inspector interprets the law. So get along with them.
Do you feel like though, do you find that these inspectors and these people who are looking at it, are they becoming more aware of what freeze drying is, or is it still just like you're having to explain that like you're not really like cooking something in the freeze dryer?
I think I don't know if they'll ever learn, and here's why. We bottled milk for many years, and that's been around since when? The 30s? Yeah. They still couldn't even wrap their head around bottling milk. So I think it's just, you try to educate them as much as you possibly can, and do your own little homework here and there, and just, it's all basically the same. It's ABC, and just keep it clean, keep it sterile, understand what to do and not to do. Whether you're freeze drying or doing anything in the industries, manufacturing.
Yeah. GBC says in the chat, will they be making a butter pecan freeze dried special?
We just made our ice cream, like our regular hard ice cream butter pecan about 6 months ago, and we would definitely like to try it. I don't know if it'll freeze dry or not, but we would try it, of course. Yeah, that's one of our top sellers right now.
It's an old-fashioned flavor that really blew up for us on the hard side of it, as in dipped ice cream. So it's funny that that's on our list. We've done butter brickle, and we tried that through the freeze dryer. Butter brickle ice cream, and that's
like a butterscotch.
Yeah, that didn't work too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Well, all those flavors sound really good. So we've got a question, not from the chat, but another submission from Jamie. She says, how do they cut their freeze-dried ice cream into squares? I've been dabbling with different shapes and sizes, and so, what would you say to that?
So what we do, and I said this earlier, but I'll say it again, is when our ice cream machines make ice cream, it's like a soft serve coming out of a machine. And it's about a half gallon, I think, on those extra, it's kind of like a cake, but like a half gallon of ice cream, I think we put on a tray, an extra large tray. And we spread it all out smooth. It has to be real smooth. And then we'll freeze that. And then the next day we'll pull it out of the freezer. And then we've got these dough cutters. It's five 5 blades, I believe, so we can spread them out how we want them. So we like 1 inch by 1 inch is what we like.
That's the target.
And then you soften that ice cream just a smidge, and then you go in there and you with that cutter and you just cross like little 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch squares. Then you refreeze it for another 12 hours, and we stick them in the freeze dryer. And after about 22 to 24 hours, we just knock them right. They just fall right off the trays.
Huh,
That's
interesting.
It's real quick and fast.
It's a simple, cheap way of cutting it. We're looking at doing automated cutting down the road.
We got
currently
a machine we're building that will cut it for us if we scale to the next level.
Oh, okay.
Well, 200 trays, it burns your shoulder.
Oh yeah, 200 trays in a day. You're like,
you're building a machine, like, or is someone building it for you, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
got
went
a
through.
prototype done, so we will have it where you lay the tray on there, whether it's the big baking sheet trays on bigger freeze dryers or the smaller ones on Harvest Right. You put that in there and it'll cut it for you.
Yeah.
That's a big investment, so it's on our list of things that we wish list. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to, your advice on people getting into freeze drying. Like, there's a lot of things that you don't really think about when you see people coming out with freeze dried products. It's like there's a lot of work involved, but you guys are clearly finding out it's like, okay, we're getting busy enough to where the time we are spending cutting these squares is great enough time. Like, it's labor intensive enough that we got to look at a machine doing that and invest in that part. And that way we can focus on things that don't cripple our hand and have to have surgery and all that stuff. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And I would say one of the biggest things that you could probably invest in, which helped us a lot on labor, was the packaging side of it. Instead of putting all those stickers and dates and everything.
Yeah.
Expensive.
It's expensive, but it's your next step.
It is. That was our first step that we did.
Yeah,
So
getting
we got-
pre-packaged or pre-printed bags. Makes you look good on the shelf. People want to buy it.
Yeah.
It looks showy, and
Yep.
not everybody wants to be able to take that step, but that's a huge step. And then you eliminate a lot of that labor and labeling.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
We gotta do it all by hand.
it's a
Yep.
lot.
Oh, when it comes to, I only do a couple of like holiday shows, and I'm just a small operator still in Boise, but it's like when I have to cut a lot of this candy, unwrap candy. I mean, there's just no easy way to do specifically taffy. It's like you can't unless you're making taffy and you can string it out where it's like in its form, where it's still warm enough to where it's not hardening up. Unless you have that, your taffy like factory, like you're buying taffy with little wrappers and you have to unwrap it and everything. And I love freeze dried taffy, but it's like, it's so labor intensive that it's crazy.
Well, it's just like dipping your ice cream. You buy the ice cream, you got to dip it. Like
Yeah.
what you just said about the taffy is how we can do our ice cream. That's why it takes us to a whole different level.
Yeah.
But the capital investment it's insane.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it keeps a lot of people out of it. I don't know
Say,
if
we're
that's
set up
wrong
to-
or bad to say, but
In our position, it's great.
yeah.
It is.
Well, let me just pause real quick because we got 15 more minutes or so with the Stensland brothers who started Stensland Family Farms. Their product for freeze drying is freeze dried ice cream. And I just want to pause to let people know who are just joining, or you're kind of wondering who are these three people. My name's David. I'm the host of the Freeze Dry Business Channel, where we're talking everything freeze drying and the business side of things. And we're here today doing a live Q&A with entrepreneurs who are in freeze drying. The Stensland Family Farms has developed a freeze-dried ice cream product. I have profiled them. I've got 5 different videos that go through my whole visit with them in August in 2024. And we went through a lot of different things that we're talking about. But if you're just joining us, one, go into the chat here on the live stream, and you can ask them questions that maybe you've had about starting a freeze drying business. Even if you have a freeze drying business, asking them questions that things are just like, I just can't find the answer. Nobody's got this. Maybe they do. So, yeah, thanks for joining this stream, Justin and Jason. We're going to get to a couple other questions here in the chat. 10X, we've got Grant Cardone here. That's his company. I'm just kidding. I don't think this is Grant Cardone. But he says, did you design your own packaging or use another company for that?
We did that in house, and that goes back to the experience and the capabilities we have in house. So we designed it that way. We got more tweaks to do, but you got to start somewhere, and you just kind of keep tweaking as you go. But we did that in house.
Our
Okay.
nutrition, everything,
Yeah.
everything's in house.
We got programs for that.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of companies out there that you can work with.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's if you can figure out how to design your own product, it saves you a lot of money. At the same time, though, if you look at Stensland's freeze-dried ice cream bags, I mean, it's something that makes you want to buy it. It's intriguing enough. The color is great. Your logo is great. Packaging. I would say having a good package that looks good on a shelf, looks good on a website is definitely a key indicator of whether you're going to get more sales than the person that looks like it's homemade.
For sure. It sets you apart, and it gets you to that next level. And then certain people start taking you serious. What I mean by that is distributors and gas stations and a few of these other retail outlets. So that's what
You gotta
opened
look
up for
good
us.
and you gotta be able to provide.
Yeah.
So that's what our
We
goal
always
is.
say you fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the questions that I had submitted by Alan said he has his freeze-dried product. Like I'm summarizing here, but he basically has his freeze-dried product and he has it on a bag, but he's trying to figure out how to like what the process is for SKUs and barcodes and things like that. And he's like, it seems like a very complicated process. So he's like, can they simplify what you have to do to get people that want the QR codes to accept that? That's kind of what he's asking.
Great question.
So I'm going to be honest. We have a very good group of individuals that helps us on the back end. I do know that we had to buy into a system. It's like the I don't know what it's called, like the American barcode. Maybe I don't know what it's
We
called.
gotta
but
buy our barcode.
you have to buy your barcodes
Yeah.
at so many at a pop, and every time you change something, you got to change the barcode and get it registered. So the answer to your question is I don't really know exactly who we worked with on that, but our team does. So if I need to, I can send that to David or what have you. But the barcodes are one thing, then the nutrition facts are another thing, and
And
then
we have case labels, case
Yep.
picking. We have everything set up for distributors as well.
Yep.
We set up.
because your case picking and
Yeah, it's all
your
different.
barcodes, everything's all different. What I mean by that is
Scan.
they have to scan them in and out. And so our case is a 12-pack. So then you need a barcode for that. And then you need your barcode on an individual, so if somebody buys it individually in the store. And then you need a pallet pick. So then you also need an ID for a pallet. So like I said, we sell by the pallet for the most part, or a case. So
So for Alan, for you to answer Alan's question though, to simplify that, what is there a better, I mean, you guys have a lot of stuff set up because you're already in like ice cream, but looking at what would be your advice for, hey, if you need to create barcodes or if you need to create SKUs, like this would be a good avenue at the very simplest standpoint.
Well, again, I don't even know the answer to that. I'd have to ask.
We have to ask the team.
It's the
for
team
us.
behind us because they make us
To make
look
it
good.
simple, like I know, because you gotta have barcodes and be in certain locations, so I know you just, I don't look at it, Google it, I suppose, so you can buy barcodes, because there's only a couple companies, if not just one in the United States, because everything has to talk. So we buy barcodes, I think it's 100 at a pop, if I remember
100
right.
to 1,000.
Yeah, or 1,000 or something, but.
Okay.
You gotta,
I know we can't answer that. I mean, we can, but not really good.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
There's no easy way. When you get into the
You
world,
just
it's
gotta
a big
jump
black
in.
hole, and you
Yeah.
just got to keep going into it, and hopefully you find the outside. It gets to be a lot of stuff.
it took us 10 years to get here, so,
Well, we're
Well-
slow learners. That's why.
yeah.
It's good we're talking about this too. I mean, it brings up the conference again. Like these are all these common questions that like people have for starting a business in the food side of things. and especially for food, you gotta track your batches, and because if you're gonna freeze dry something that you're not making specifically, and someone else, if they do the recall on that particular thing, you got to look at that batch of the candy that you bought and then route that out. So we're going to talk about that at the conference too, because I want to have that information. I think it's valuable for people who are getting into this. It's like
COAs and recall program. We have all that set up. It's a lot
yeah,
of stuff.
and there's software that
Yep.
that can do that. But yeah, we'll get to one more question and then we'll wrap up here. Thanks for your time, you guys. And thanks for kind of extending this past what we were normally going to do, but we had some hiccups with the recording. But JC 2010 has another questions. You may have a unique perspective on bird flu and milk supply concerns. Has your food safety sourcing come up with customers, since I believe you said you're getting some from others locally, like milk and ice cream?
We follow all the and we have
Okay.
like probably 100 to 200 different vendors that we buy products from because we make a lot of things. So we're so set up for the recall stuff and all that. So it doesn't even phase us.
No, not really.
No.
Yep.
So
At the end of the day, I think if someone's going to want to freeze dry ice cream, it's almost like either you're already making ice cream yourself,
Yep.
or you just need to find somebody like a private label ice cream making company, and they give you that ice cream, and then that way all you have to do is get a good process for making it and doing the freeze drying, because um, there's just a lot involved, and there's a lot of money that you're going to have to invest to make your own ice cream and also do freeze drying. So yeah, but I don't think it's too huge of a barrier of entry. But I think now that we know a lot more people who are in freeze drying, so it's not like you can't do it. It's more like, hey, someone like you're actually making it happen. But now we know that you might have to have your own ice cream place already existing. So
It just helps.
yeah.
it's interesting. We sell most of our stuff online, so that's still a big thing with freeze dried. It's easy to ship. It's light.
Yeah.
It's easy to ship. So focus on online.
Yeah. Well, speaking of online, that's my last question, which is, TikTok, went away for 12 hours, but there's a lot of anticipation for it closing down. And then, now there's this like 90-day ticking clock for, what happens again around April or so. So like you guys have been really heavy on the TikTok shop and seen a lot of success there. How have you guys pivoted, and if you're willing to share kind of like what kind of considerations are you looking at, or what's made you think differently now that the TikTok thing was potentially going to like stop a lot of sales?
So the big thing I think that we've done as a company was just realize that nothing's forever, right? Second thing is a lot of things are out of your control. So you're always going to have something that you can't control, especially when we're all the little guys. So first thing we did is we felt like that was a blessing. It weirdly
For
said,
January it hit, we lost all our sales pretty much. So we've learned that.
So what we did is we pivoted and using different online platforms.
So we're Amazon and all that stuff. So we're all on that. And also it's just looking for some bigger distributors for gas station type stuff.
Yep.
So we got to diversify a little more is what we figured out in the last few months.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. And then also just platforms. We are investing more money in marketing with Google ads, and we're putting more money in the Amazon ads, and we're putting Shopify. And so we just decided that let's hit other platforms. It gives us an opportunity to branch out. And TikTok has been coming back for us.
Oh yeah, we're back to normal now again. Yeah. But like you said, in April, what's going to happen again? And for local wise, just so people know that, is we're pushing fundraising. I think that's gonna be huge for us. We're big into fundraising, so we built our own platform for that, our online platform for ordering and all that. So we'll be doing freeze dried ice creams and regular ice cream. So that's what we're focused on. We're so diversified. So
Well, you have to be.
Yep, yeah.
It's a TikTok thing. It's just
Yeah.
it's simple. Like you do all that and your whole business crashes.
Yeah.
You're kind of
Ours
screwed. So,
crashed overnight, so.
yeah.
Well, it's just like somebody who's in a professional athlete, right? Like all of a sudden it takes one injury and you're no longer the premium athlete that could have signed a big contract in 2 years when your contract was up. So what are you going to do with the money that you currently are doing when you are the top company or the athlete? For you guys, it's like, there's a lot of influencers on TikTok. There's a lot of companies making money on TikTok. It's like, how are you investing your money? And then also, are you being smart with diversification where it's like, hey, if we get hit by 50% with this area, do we still have avenues? Does our brand still carry some weight in other areas, so we're not just stuck there? So, yeah. Yep. Well, that's about it. Thanks a lot for joining on this live Q&A. I hope everyone who attended and chatted and submitted their questions got their questions asked. And this has been a part of the Freeze Drying Entrepreneur kind of series playlist. If you want to check out more, you can always go to the Freeze Dry Business channel in the playlist and see different entrepreneurs that have been highlighted and get inspired. And yeah, thanks Jason and Justin for attending. And yeah, best of luck in your business heading into some busy times this year.
We
Right.
appreciate it.
Thanks for everything, David, and everybody. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. All right, we're no longer live. Thanks for doing that.